Hey guys, welcome back to our channel and our first What's for Dinner Keto Edition video. We plan on making these a weekly series and they feature recipes that are not only keto and low carb, but are also family friendly. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell if you're interested in seeing our weekly What's for Dinner Keto videos.
I wanna catch the wave.
For our first meal this week, we made some crispy air fryer pork chops. These were absolutely amazing. I will link the recipe down below, but basically, you're just gonna get your air fryer out. I'm sure you could do them in the oven if you preferred, but I preheated my air fryer at 360, just got a plastic bag and added to it a third of a cup of almond flour, a fourth of a cup grated Parmesan cheese, about a teaspoon garlic powder, teaspoon Tony's Creole seasoning, and a teaspoon of paprika. Once I had all my ingredients in, I just shook it up and then added my boneless pork chops. I did cook these in 2 batches just because of the air fryer. You want to make sure that your food is in there evenly and that there's enough space for the air to circulate all around to make sure it's cooked. The recipe called for them to cook for 8 to 12 minutes. I did 18 because I don't like to take chances with pork or chicken. Once those were going, I steamed some rice cauliflower and set out my toppings to make loaded rice cauliflower on the side. And here you go, it's the finished product. Heat it up and just put a little bit of chives on top. This was so good. I'll be adding this as a staple. Next up, my favorite recipe of the week. This is from Peace, Love, and Low Carb, and this recipe has changed my life. It is just like the real thing lasagna. Again, linked down below. This might seem like it was more complicated, but I just did it in batches and made the marinara sauce in the morning, which made enough to freeze the leftovers so that in the future when I make this, it won't even take as long. And then I made the noodles. So to get started, you're just going to take your crushed tomatoes, your tomato paste, minced garlic, basil, parsley, oregano, garlic powder, and onion powder, salt, a little bit of crushed red pepper, and go ahead and put it all into a saucepan on the stove over medium-high heat. And just let that mix and get going until it is all incorporated. Once it is, it calls for 3 cheeses, but I just added shredded parm and mozzarella and then stirred that until it was nice and melted. Then I went ahead and set that to the side and got started on my noodles. I creamed together some cream cheese and eggs and then added to that a fourth of a cup Parmesan cheese and my Italian seasoning, garlic powder, and onion powder. And once that was mixed together, I folded in some mozzarella cheese. And I did go ahead and preheat my oven to 375 and took out a 9x13 baking dish and lined it with parchment paper. And I'm just going to take this entire mixture and spread it evenly in the casserole dish and bake it for 25 minutes. When it comes out, it's nice and golden brown, and I just let it cool on the stove for a second and then popped it in the fridge for about 20 minutes. And while that was cooling, I went ahead and took my ground beef and browned it, and I added all of these yummy seasonings. Again, just some more oregano, garlic powder, basil, and minced onion. And went ahead and started browning and cooking that together. And then I'm just gonna get out a standard loaf pan and take about a quarter of a cup of the marinara that we made and spread it evenly in the bottom of the loaf dish. And then I'm going to cut my noodles into thirds, and they will fit perfectly in the loaf pan. Go ahead and put 1 layer in. Now to my browned meat, I just went ahead and added about 3/4 a cup of marinara and mixed that up until it was all incorporated. And I'm going to add a third of this mixture to the first noodle layer. Top it with about 1/4 cup mozzarella cheese. And 3 tablespoons of whole milk ricotta. And then I'm just going to use a spatula to spread that evenly. And then we're just going to repeat the whole process again for a second layer. And for the last layer, I'm just going to top this with the remaining meat mixture and a little heavy-handed this time on the mozzarella, and pop this whole thing in the oven on 375 for about 20 minutes. You can cook it longer if you want. And this is the end result. Guys, look at the layers on this lasagna. I was missing lasagna so much being on keto, and this totally satisfied me and hit the spot. I cannot wait to make it again. It was definitely my favorite meal of the week, and of course the girls loved it. Moving on, for the next meal, I made some steak with a ginger butter sauce and served it with some steamed broccoli. This was so easy to make and so quick. I took a cast iron skillet and just heated it on medium-high heat until it smoked. This cut of steaks, Denver steaks, are more inexpensive and they are so tender, perfect for a dish like this. Went ahead and seasoned them with a little bit of salt and pepper, and then I'm just going to add them directly to that hot skillet and sear them for about 2 minutes on each side, just a really high heat sear. And then I am going to move the steaks to a plate while we get started on the sauce. After I removed the steaks, I did let the pan cool for a little while until it didn't smoke anymore, and turn the heat down to medium. And I'm just gonna add about 2 tablespoons of butter to the pan and let that melt. Once it's melted, I added about a tablespoon of minced ginger. I just like to buy this in the jar and keep it in the fridge. And I'm gonna saute that in the browned butter until it's cooked down some. And then to that, I just added a couple tablespoons liquid aminos or soy sauce, whichever you prefer, or coconut aminos, and let that cook down. And now I'm gonna add my steaks back to the pan and cook them for about another 5 minutes. And just flipping them. Make sure to add your juices that came out of the steaks while they were resting back into your pan. You don't want to lose out on any of that flavor. And while that's going, I'm going to take some of the organic Kirkland's broccoli and steam it and just toss it in a little bit of toasted sesame oil. And there you go, guys. So freaking easy and simple. Look how good this looks. This looks like a restaurant quality meal at home. And this was probably the quickest meal I made all week. Cut it open so that you can see the inside. It's perfectly medium rare like we like it. Again, just adjust how long you cook it if you like your steak more well done. For our last meal of the week, I made some chicken skewers with peanut sauce marinade. These are kind of like Thai food inspired. To get started with these, I just took about 1/2 cup of peanut butter, tablespoon curry powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt in a saucepan over medium heat, and added 3/4 cup of coconut milk to that. And making sure to not let it bubble and boil, I'm just gonna whisk this all together until it's melted down and incorporated fully. And then to that, I'm going to add a tablespoon of lime juice and a tablespoon of liquid aminos or soy sauce, whichever you prefer. I know some people that are on keto are anti-soy. And then I'm gonna mix that all up. Once it's fully mixed, I went ahead and cut up some boneless chicken thighs. I cut them into about 1-inch chunks, and then I seasoned them with salt, pepper, and a little bit of ginger. And now I'm just going to put them in the pot of marinade and let them soak. I only let them soak about 20 minutes, but of course the longer they sit in the marinade, the better. While those were soaking, I also took some wooden skewers and soaked them in water because I'm going to be broiling this. Got out my broiling pan, spread it down with some olive oil, and then I'm just going to slide the chicken onto the skewers and line them up on the pan, on the broiling pan. Of course, I've got the broiler heating while I do this, and I'm just gonna stick them under the broiler for about 15 minutes. Of course, this is gonna vary depending on the thickness of your chicken and how close you have it to the heating element. And here you go, nice and crispy and charred a little on the outside and the inside tender and juicy. Plated it up with just some steamed green beans. So there you go, guys. That's what we had for dinner this week. All keto meals for the adults and family friendly for the kids. They were all pretty low budget too and easy to do. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you can catch our next What's for Dinner Keto Style video. And we'll see you later. Bye, guys.
There is a life I lead in this city, hurrying to cut my teeth. I can take what I need to get by. It doesn't make it easy. The other piece of my heart moves slow, somewhere in the great unknown.